Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know by now I review many photographic, audio and video related products. Well, today we're taking a look at a new piece of kit that I've just purchased, and it is the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro, and here it is. Now I'm actually using the ATEM Mini Pro for recording this video. And normally what I would do is record the 4 or 5 separate scenes onto my cameras, onto the SD cards, and then I would transfer that footage onto my computer. Now that is fine and dandy, but it takes up a great deal of hard drive space because I shoot in 4K. Not only does it take up a great deal of hard drive space, it's so long-winded. It takes ages to import the footage. I create proxy files simply because of the 4K footage, and I do a multicam edit. So I've got the time to upload the footage onto the computer, then I've got to edit it because I do a multicam edit, then I've got to export it. So it's a very, very time consuming process. I'm hoping with this ATEM Mini Pro that I can cut a tremendous amount of that time, as well as save a tremendous amount of hard drive space. So that is my goal. That's what I'm hoping to do. Now this particular mixer has got 4 HDMI inputs, and you can see here 1, 2, 3, 4. The red light's on channel 4 because that is the overhead camera. If we look here, that's this overhead camera here that's looking down on the mixer. Now let's just go through what I've got configured into this mixer, and I'll tell you more about this mixer, what you can use it for, and you know how good it is. So we've got 4 inputs. It's got 4 HDMI inputs. So I've got channel 1, which is this one here. That's my close-up shot with my Sony A7C f1.8 85mm lens on. Then I've got channel 2, which is a wide shot, wider shot. That's using my ZV-E10 with a 16-70 Zeiss f4 lens on. Then on channel 3, I got up there my A7R3 with the Tamron 20mm lens on, and then input 4 is my GH5 Mark II with the 35-100 lens on, just looking down on the actual device so I can show you, you know, its buttons and its functions and what have you. Now this particular mixer, it's a 4-channel production mixer, but it's actually primarily designed as a 4-channel live streaming mixer, and it's phenomenal. You plug your inputs in via HDMI. Virtually all cameras nowadays have got a HDMI output, so it takes all these 4 inputs, then you can do a mix out to HDMI or USB-C. Or the Ethernet port. Now I'll explain what those 3 different ports are. Now with the HDMI port, it's great because you've got, on this production mixer, you've either got master program out, which will go via the HDMI, and that's this little button here, you can just see there, or a preview out. Now I've got it set to preview out at the moment. Now I'm actually recording this preview out on my Atomos Ninja Flame. I think it's a Flame, or is it the Shogun? I'm not sure. It's one of them. It's the 7-inch model. So I'm recording the preview out to the Ninja, the Atomos Ninja, so you can actually see when I edit this afterwards. You can actually see it's got all the inputs. So the second row is the 4 inputs. So you've got channel 1, 2, 3 and 4, and the little red box is around what input is live. So if we go to channel 1, you see now the red box is around channel 1, and then channel 2 would be the wide, so on and so forth. So you've got your master preview and your master program out, which is great. And then that's the top 2 bigger boxes, and then the bottom 4 boxes shows the SSD recording, all your audio channels, and your media, whether you've got any still images, because you can load still images into the software on the computer. I'm going to explain how all that works in a minute as well. You can see there's a lot going on with this little box. It is a lot inside this little box. It does a great deal, but it is actually very straightforward to use. when I first got it out of its box, I thought this is going to be really complicated, but it's actually very straightforward. And the other thing you see on the preview monitor, you can set it up so you've got your audio bars, so you can clearly see your audio levels and the audio's coming into the mixer. Now, I've actually wired the microphone, or not wired it, I've plugged the microphone into one of the mic inputs. On this production mixer, it's got 2 mic inputs, so you can plug in 2 mics if you need to. I've plugged in 1 mic. It's my wireless microphone, which is the Hollyland Lark 150. That's going into mic input 1, and you can see that because on the top here it's got your 4 settings for your mic input 1, and I've got that turned on. In fact, I'm going to go through now. I think this is an ideal opportunity now to go through what all these buttons do on the top panel. And it looks, again, I think it looks complicated, but it's actually very straightforward and it's very logical. I mean, Blackmagic have done a fantastic, well, it's fantastic the way they've designed it. Although when you say it initially, it looks quite complicated. So what we've got, it's all done in sections, it's all done in groups. So the top 4 buttons are for mic input 1, so that's grouped for that mic input. So you can see I've now got it turned on. I'm not going to muck around with these buttons because it'll affect the recording, obviously. Then next to it is mic input 2, so identical layout of buttons. You can increase and decrease your audio levels using these buttons here, and you can turn that mic on or off. I've got it turned off, obviously, because there's no mic input. And again, you see it's got your 4 channel, the 4 inputs here for your video, your 4 HDMI video inputs are here. And again, there's these groups of buttons above each input, and that is specific to that input. So again, that makes it a doddle to use because it's all grouped specific to what input. So at the moment I've got all these functions turned off because I don't need them on, because I'm literally just cutting between the various angles. So there's angle 1, then I'll just cut to angle 2, cut to angle 3, which is my generic shot up there, and then I'll cut to the angle 4. So and all these groups of buttons are specific to those inputs. Then up here you've got your functions for doing your wipes, your dissolves, and all that kind of malarkey. And again, it's grouped. Again, here you've got 4 extra functions here, which is allocated to cutting. So you can do cutting, or you can do it as a mix. So I could set this up to mix. I've got it set up to cut. I could set that up to mix. You got your auto button here. So these 3 buttons here, you got cut, auto, which means if I switch to auto now, next time I hit one of these buttons, I've got it set to mix. If you look here, mix is lit up. So instead of being a cut, so if we go to that now, you see that's mixed to channel 1 as opposed to cut to channel 1. So you can set these up so quickly and easily. And I've only had this a couple of days, so I've not had a great deal of time to actually work out how all this works, but I don't need to because it's so straightforward. So now if I cut to angle 3, that mixes to angle 3. It's a fast mix, but it's mixed to angle 3. I'm going to go back to just straightforward cuts. So now when I go to channel 4, that's now cut to channel 4 because I set it back to cut, and you can see here that's lit up as cut. And then at the top here you've got your settings for your recording. Now it records, it's got a USB-C port on the back of this device. Now that can either go to a computer or it can go to a portable SSD drive. And I purchased a Samsung T5 drive, and it's really fast. It's really, really good. So not only is this a production mixer, it is actually a recorder as well, because you can plug in an SSD drive, and you can see this big red light is glowing. That's showing that it is recording to the SSD drive. So although I am recording the preview output to my Atomos Ninja Flame, the master program output is being recorded to the SSD drive, and I think that is fantastic. So it's a very, very flexible piece of kit. Now, when you're doing live streaming, as I say, this is designed for live streaming, you can do a backup recording on your SSD drive. So you're live streaming out to either Facebook or YouTube or any other live streaming platform, but you're doing a backup on your SSD drive. You may well need that for post editing. You might want that as an archive copy or whatever, you know. I haven't done any live streaming. Within the system, it's got pre-programmed live streaming setups for YouTube and for Facebook. So that are the two, I'm obviously the most popular ones. I will be doing some live streaming, but I'm not doing any just at the moment. And, you know, it is great that it can do, you know, a backup recording to SSD as well as live streaming. I'm really, you know, I think that's brilliant. And on this master control panel here, you've got these two buttons here where you've got master program out or preview out. Now those two are specifically with reference to the HDMI output. So the HDMI output on this device can either output a program master or it can output a preview. So I'm outputting a program master. There are a few idiosyncrasies to do with this Blackmagic device, and one of them, I'm getting a flicker on channel 2. Now I've googled it. It would be fantastic if anyone in my audience does actually know why it's doing it. Apparently it's because there's a miscommunication between the HDMI out of that second camera, so it's not syncing it correctly apparently. I've tried 2 different cameras and it's still doing it, but it's not as bad with my ZV-E10 as it was with the A7C, and I'm not quite sure why. And it's only happening on channel 2, unless I do have a fault with this particular unit. I don't know. But that is one of its weird things. But yeah, so with the HDMI out, you've either got program out or you've got preview out. I've got it set to previews. I'm recording the preview screen on my Atomos Ninja so you can actually see what that preview out looks like. And that's great if you're on set, you're recording to SSD, you're doing your live streaming, but you want to preview everything on one monitor. So the 7-inch screen is a little bit too small really for a preview. I would want at least a 13-inch screen, preferably. But as I said earlier, you've got your preview monitor, you've got your master out top right hand corner, you've got your 4 inputs. You see it flicker then, you know. You've got your 4 inputs on the 4 below, and then you've got the other 4 at the bottom, which is your media, your live streaming box. You're recording, it's showing that it's recording to SSD, and it tells you how much space you have left on your SSD as well, and all your audio inputs, which is phenomenal. Now I am recording to SSD on this camera here, and I've got a microphone plugged into it as well as a backup, and I can clearly see here the inputs coming in on those channels, which is great. But if you don't want to output a preview out, but you want to output a master program out, maybe you are recording to an Atomos recorder, then use that control there, and as you can see, it's now recording. I've got this one set up there as opposed to preview. That's now recording the program out, and it is fantastic, isn't it? I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. Now so that's basically the box. 4 HDMI inputs. Now you can plug in 4K inputs, but it's brilliant because the box configures all the inputs, whether it's 30, 4K at 30p, 60p, whatever it might be, and it configures them all to a standard HD signal. So you don't have to worry about setting your cameras up. You can plug anything into it apparently, and it configures it itself to sync it all, and it records out as a HD signal, 1080p HD signal. And that is fine for me because I upload everything to YouTube in 4K anyway. So I don't have an issue with that. I think that's absolutely, sorry, not in 4K, in HD. So I don't have an issue with it's recorded in HD. It saves a lot of space on the computer's hard drive. This is going to save me a massive amount of time with editing, because obviously it's pre-edited as I, film it. I think that is, that is awesome. And so that's all built into the unit. but you really do need to download its companion software to either a Mac or PC. It is incredibly useful. In fact, it's very important to do so, because with the companion software, I'm hoping my screen recorder is working on this companion software, but you can set up your audio systems, your cameras. If you're using Blackmagic cameras, you can set up the color balance of the cameras, and you can start and not start and stop, but it's got a tally light will come up on the camera as to which camera is live. There's a lot of flexibility and a lot of things that the software will do that the hardware doesn't do. One specific thing for me is with the audio, and I found when I first started to use it that the audio was out of sync, and that was really frustrating me. But I had to readjust it in the edit. It's about, well, it depends on every use case is going to be different. In my case, it was 4 frames out, and I needed to move it 4 frames. Well, with this software, you can move the frame rate 4 frames, or whatever, however many frames you need to. Really, I've got it set to 4 frames. Now that only works on the mic inputs, mic input 1 and 2. You can't move the frames if the audio's coming in via HDMI. So if you're using a camera and you want the audio to come in from the camera input, which is what I originally did, you can't move those frames. If it's out of sync, you need to move it in your edit, and I didn't want to do that. So that's why I've plugged the microphone into one of the mic inputs, so I've got more flexibility. On the box here, you can actually have the audio set to follow the video as well, which is brilliant. So you can set all 4 HDMI inputs for the audio to follow that. And what that basically means is, as you move from one camera to another, so if I move, say, to that camera, it will use the audio coming in from that camera's HDMI input, from the HDMI input going into the box, but the audio going into that camera. Likewise, if I switch the camera to, if you've got audio following video, then it's going to use that audio. I don't want to do that. I want one consistent audio track. So all I've done is set up the mic 1 input, you can see there, mic 1, to be the master audio, and that's what goes down onto the master track that it's recording. On the outputs, again, when we get back to this box here, if you look at these outputs here, where you've got your preview out, program out, you can set it to either 1, 2, 3 or 4. So you can either just record out to HDMI channel 1 or channel 2 or channel 3 or channel 4, or a mix of all of them. So very, very flexible. Obviously I've got it set for recording out the preview out, but I could set it just to record out, channel 1. So if I set that now, all it's going to record via the HDMI out is channel 1. There may be a use case for that. I can't see a use case for that for me, but likewise I could set that to be channel 2, and that'll just record out to HDMI channel 2. Isn't there so much flexibility, but so easy to use? And once I've used it more often, I'm going to find it even easier and easier to use. But I've got to grips with this in just a couple of days of using it, and I think that's awesome. I really do. Now, there are a few niggling things with this unit, nothing drastic, but a few niggling things. There is no on-off switch that I can find anywhere. I've also Googled it. It's a matter of either unplugging the cable from the back of the unit, and that's going to wear the connection down, or I've plugged it into a 4-way block which has got individual switches on, and so I can switch it off via that. That's one niggling thing. And there is no headphone jack, which is a bit bizarre really. Again, not a big deal, because with the fact that it's got no headphone jack isn't a big deal, because you can plug headphones into your monitor. I could plug headphones into my Atomos Ninja Flame and monitor it from there. So not a big deal at all. That is the main things, the main 2 things. And they're saying you have to be able to sync the audio either in post edit, or if your audio is going into one of the mic inputs, you can sync it in the software. So you know, very important to download the software. It's a free download off Blackmagic's website. A really important software to download to be able to control the different aspects of the mixer. Now, also in the software, it's got software controls for controlling these physical buttons. I'm never going to use that. I can't see why I would want to use that, but it basically mimics on the software what you see as far as physical controls. There's only one thing that the software does have. It has a T-bar, where obviously on this unit it doesn't have a T-bar. So, you know, I'm happy with no T-bar. It doesn't really affect me. But I can just see so many benefits with using this. Now, the only downside, what you cut to is going down live, very much like live TV production, sporting events, anything like that, theatre, concerts, that sort of thing. When people are doing live vision mixing, it is seat of your pants job, because if you cut at a bad point, or you cut to a camera where the camera person hasn't got it in focus, well, that's what ends up on tape. So, or if you forget to even cut, so you're chatting away thinking that you've cut to the right angle, when in fact you haven't. So, you know, it's not bulletproof. It kind of reminds me, actually, is how I used to do it. I've been doing vision mixing for many years, and I've set up I did have a very successful business until I retired, or semi-retired, and we used to do production, live concerts, all sorts of corporate events, doing live vision mixing, and that's what I did back in the day, long before all this digital stuff came along. And I would do, you know, no more than 4 channels. I'd have 4 camera people mixing it live. And what ended up on tape, as I just said, was what you got, you know. And it was seat of your pants job. You know, the adrenaline was great because, you know, you had to, as best you could, get it right on the day. But of course, with modern technology, I can do a certain amount of post editing. I am recording a wild track on me camera up here, me A7R3, purely for that reason. When I edit it, I will sync that together, and if I do need to drop this shot in, then I can do. But the beauty is it's only one extra SD card to put in over and above this mixer. But when you're doing live streaming, it's a fantastic piece of kit. So it's got, as I said, the 4 HDMI inputs, 1 HDMI output that goes to going to my Atomos recorder, but that would normally go to a monitor, and that either feeds out your master program or your preview. It's got the Ethernet connection, which enables it to connect to your computer for running the software, configuring the software, and for all your live streaming. So that is great. And 2 mic inputs, and I'm using one of the mic inputs as we speak, and I'm running my Holly Landlock 150. So there we go. That is a brief overview of the my initial impressions of the Blackmagic ATEM Mini Pro. Would it be nice if it had an on-off switch? And it would be nice to have a headphone jack. But again, I have to ask if anyone in the audience has got any idea why I've got a flicker on one of my channels. I have Googled it, as I said, and I haven't got a conclusive answer. But if anyone can help me resolve that flicker, that would be really helpful. And you know, that is it. And you know, please hit the like button if you do like the content of this video. If you have found this useful, I really appreciate that, and it helps me grow the channel. And leave any comments in the comment section. That would be also really helpful. Really appreciate that as well. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography, audio gear, and this kind of equipment. That would also be great. So thanks very much. Cheers for now. See you on the next one. Bye.